Hi, my name is Paul Grogan and welcome to the video log for December 2017, recorded at the start of January 2018. So here I am, sat in my front room with the Christmas tree here, and I'm going to go through pretty much everything that I got up to in December 2017. There's a lot to talk about, so I've written it all down, and the first thing I'm going to do is talk about what I got up to. Start of December, I went to Dragonmeet. Dragonmeet is a convention. It's a one-day convention in London, in the centre of London at Hammersmith. It's been running for many, many years. It started out, I remember going to Dragonmeet in the 90s, and it was pretty much just a role-playing games convention then. Now, I don't know the percentages, so I'll say 50-50. Board games and role-playing games. There was certainly a lot of board gaming stuff there, but there was a huge amount of role-playing game stuff there as well. Traders Hall and everything. Now, I recorded a podcast, so if you want to know a bit more about Dragonmeet, obviously there is the website, dragonmeet.co.uk, but take a listen to one of my earlier podcasts, podcast 55 I think it was, where I interview Chris Birch from Medivhus Entertainment. Medivhus actually run Dragonmeet now and have done for a few years, and I interviewed Mark Cook from Aircon, Katie from Katie's Game Corner, and Caesar from Alley Cat Games, all who went to Dragonmeet to find out what it was about. That was my last working convention for the year of 2017. I just got the train into London and then back again, and I did get to play one game while I was there. So speaking of games that I've been playing, where's the list? Here's the list. Right. So this isn't everything because I think there was a week where I forgot to put stuff on here. But Agra. I played Agra 3 times in December. Once at Dragonmeet, 4 players, where I was teaching 2 other people how to play, and with Paul Harris as well. Then I played it 2-player with Paul Luxton, and then I played it 3-player with Paul and Ben. So I haven't played it since, but I played it like 2 or 3 times before that, and I played it 3 times in December. I've done a review video of Agra, so if you want to know more about what I think about the game, the bits I liked, the bits I didn't like, etc., then go and check out my video review for that. Other games that I've played, Knights of Fire. I played most of a game of Knights of Fire, getting it a bit wrong. The game's not out yet. I've done a rules video for it, and the game will be going to Kickstarter next year. So I got a copy of the prototype to film the video with, and I wanted to play it through myself just to make sure I understood the rules and see how it all hangs together. So I played a quick 2-player game of that. Also played a 2-player game of Lisboa. Me and Paul have played lots of 2-player games of Lisboa. Really enjoying that 2-player. I think I will still prefer 3-player myself, but we can get a 2-player game of it done in about an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half, which is great. Also played a few games of Cousins War in December, and I've done a review video for Cousins War, so go and check out that. I released it, I think it was like the last day of December. It might have been New Year's Eve or something like that, and I need to make it live for everybody else now. Anyway, yeah, Cousins War, 2-player game, David Mortimer, Surprise Dare Games. Go and check out my video review to see what I think of that. Other games I've been playing, Tybord the Bowmaster. I've played, I don't know, I've lost track, it's probably about 4 times now or something. Now, Tybord the Bowmaster is a little game from Mayfair Games, if they're still around, which is in the same universe as Oh My Goods, designed by Alexander Pfister, and it's similar artwork, similar style and everything else. The game's completely different, and I think I prefer Tybord the Bowmaster. It's a slightly lighter game, it's more accessible. Oh My Goods is nice, but the chaining can be a little bit tricky and confusing and moving things around. Tybord the Bowmaster is a bit more straightforward, and yeah, really like that game. What else have I played? At my local club in Cullompton, the last meeting before Christmas was the Christmas one, so we played some fun games. We played Happy Salmon, which is always a bit of fun. We played Crosstalk, that I don't know whether we were playing it right, didn't seem to work that well. We played Perudo, which I always really like, and played a new top secret CGE game that I can't really talk about, but was testing it to see if it worked. Also played Mini Rails again, which is a fantastic game. I think I've spoken about this before, but it's a train game, very simple rules, kind of like a filler, but it's got a lot of depth for a filler game. Played Noria again, which I might be doing a review of later this month. If the votes, I'm doing a vote on my Patreon to see what games I should be reviewing next, and that's on the list of possible reviews. But I've played Noria a couple of times now and quite like it. The Friday before Christmas, 6 people came round to my house for games evening, and we wanted to get a game for all 6 of us. So we had a look through and we found Acquire, which takes 6. Now, I've not played Acquire in years. I mean, I've had it for 20 years, but I've not played it in about 10 years, and we got it out, and it's better than I remembered. It is still a bit random with the tile draw, but it's a really nice game, and it is a classic, but it is still good. And I think everybody else enjoyed it. It seemed to work quite well. A little bit of downtime with 6 people, but yeah, it was okay. Also played Nusfjord again, taught a couple of other people how to play that. And then between Christmas and New Year, when I was visiting my parents, the only other games we played, I played the first 2 scenarios of the new Unlock game. So this is the Mystery Adventures. So we played one which was, I think it was a haunted house, and we had to find a book or something like that. So that went down really well. My mum and dad really enjoyed that, and you know, me and Vicky really enjoyed it as well. And we played the Nautilus one, the underwater one, which we get again was fine, but there's a big problem with it. Now, thankfully, a friend of mine in America, James Nathan, warned me that there was a problem with this game right at the start and gave me a hint as to what the problem was, and said you're just going to have to use the hints to give you the answer because you're not going to be able to work it out. And quite rightly, when we got to this point, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I think this is the bit that James mentioned. And he was absolutely right. There's a word which is not an English word. It's a word I've never heard of. Nobody I know has heard of this word. And you kind of need to know that word in order to work out the puzzle. So we just cheated and used the hints. It's not cheating when, you know, can't really do it. And then afterwards we looked up this word in the dictionary, and it's not in the dictionary. And we Googled it, and the only occurrences of this word we could find were on French websites. So I still don't know what the word means. It's really, really weird. It's not a translation error. It's a word that wasn't even translated and just makes no sense whatsoever. So that was a bit of a problem with Nautilus, but the rest of it was fine. And then we played the first exit game. I've got the exit games, but I've not played any of them. And finally, I got around to playing the Abandoned Cabin. Now, a lot of people have compared Exit to Unlock. Some people like one and hate the other, and vice versa. It's really unusual. I've now played both, and they're both good. I don't know which I prefer, to be honest. I think the puzzles in Exit might have been slightly better. I don't know, but I really enjoyed the Unlock ones. So yeah, I enjoy both for different reasons. The Abandoned Cabin is one that you can play without destroying. It says on there you need to use scissors and fold things. We didn't. And the bits where we needed to use the scissors to cut things out, we just copied all the things onto bits of paper, and then we used them instead. And it worked absolutely fine. So they are the games that I played in December 2017, apart from the ones that I forgot about, which is probably a few. I must get better at that. Anyway, Patreon. Let's talk about Patreon. Now, it's been a good and bad month for Patreon. The bad stuff is Patreon announced, I think about the first week in December, that they were going to start changing the way that they do their charging model. Now, bearing in mind, I've only recently launched my Patreon, and it took a long time for me to get it set up, and it took over a year for me to get across my mental walls that I built, mental hurdles about launching the Patreon. It's not as simple as, oh, I'll just put a Patreon up. Somebody like me who's way too sensitive for their own good, basically I had loads and loads of bad feelings about the Patreon. Do I want to do it? Should I be doing it? And all of this lot. And that was going round and round in my head for a year. I finally plucked up the courage to launch my Patreon in October, and then they announced this change at the start of December, and everybody was in uproar about it, including me. The change that they proposed, nobody seemed to like. And they were getting absolutely slated on social media. I lost, I think, 25% of my patrons, and other content providers that I know were losing their patrons. People were just deserting the platform. Not everybody, the people who stayed with me, thank you very much for doing that, but it was a pretty shocking decision that they made, and everybody was in uproar about it, including me. I remember posting on social media and saying that I was also unhappy about it, and somebody jumped on me from a big height and made me feel terrible for voicing my opinion on the changes, which I completely disagreed with, and it made me feel awful. And everybody else was saying the same thing. Everybody else I know that either is a content provider or supports people on Patreon, well, not everybody, but 99% of people, were all saying the same thing. I said the same thing and got jumped on from a big height, and it just made me feel awful. But anyway, moving on. they changed their mind. Cut a long story short, Patreon changed their mind. But it wasn't as simple as that. There was lots and lots and lots of complaints and about the changes, and eventually they reversed their decision and said, we've listened to you, we're not going to make these changes. So we're back as we are. However, only one of those people who left me has come back. The rest of them have not come back, and I completely respect their decision. In fact, many of them have said that they'd like to support me financially if I could provide another way of doing it other than Patreon, which I would like to look into, but it isn't as easy as you might think, because Patreon allows me to do the reports of who's backed me for how long and when. It allows me to do the early access thing, and it allows me to do quite a few things, which I've now got used to doing. It's quite a lot of admin and extra work to do. But if I was to say, oh right, well you can all start paying me money via PayPal if you don't want to use Patreon or whatever, then that's great, because it cuts out all of those fees, because the Patreon fees are quite a lot. It's not the 5% they advertised, it's closer to 15%, and then you get charged VAT if you're in the UK and things like that. So yeah, I could do that, but it's just how am I going to manage that extra admin overhead of doing it all? Anyway, so Patreon. I said everybody who supports me on Patreon will get a shout out on the podcast initially. I've changed my mind on that, and I'm now going to give people a shout out on the monthly video log. So there's going to be quite a lot of people here, because this is all since I last gave thanks to everybody, and there is quite a few people to mention. So we've got a few, so this is everybody who's backed me all the way through up to 31st of December 2017, okay? So a few new executive producers have come on board. We have Ludi Creations, which is a games publisher. They're a client of mine, so they pay me to do rulebook editing and things like that. So I'm very happy with their support to create the other content that I create. The Sandbox Games Database has come on board as an executive producer. Sandbox Games Database is actually a website that deals with PC games specifically related to sandbox-style games. A friend of mine runs it, Dan Wiseman. He used to live down here. We used to game together quite a lot. And Dan's really into these sandbox-style computer games. And I am too. I quite like them too. So if you're interested in that kind of game, Sandbox Games Database is the place to go. Other executive producers, Tony Booth-Lydon. Thank you very much, Tony. Barbara Allen. Thank you very much, Barbara. Barbara runs her own podcast. I'll put a link to that in the show notes below. And Brian Hunt. Thank you very much, Brian. You've supported me for quite a while, and I do appreciate you coming on board as an executive producer. Producers, we've had a few of them: David Skoog, Jill Pearon, Roger Dial, Gary Duke, Ian Gent and Ian Noble. And then in December, these all came on after the Patreon thing. Christian Lavoie, not sure if I pronounced that correctly, Raymond Davis, Matthias Mork, iPlayRed, thank you very much. Tony Simpkins has upgraded to a producer, and Graham Charlton has also upgraded to producer. And finally, there's a few other people who supported me at lower levels. Again, I might butcher the name, so apologies for this. Peter Murgate, Brian Fromm, Fraser McKenzie, Albert Lee, Federico Latini, Paul Mazzoni, Henrik Meerbakken, John Apostolakis, Affable Kraut, and Rob Stevenson. All of your support goes towards creating videos like this, the reviews, the podcast, and everything else, so thank you very much for your support. While we are talking about Patreon, everybody who backs me at producer level and above gets an entry into the monthly prize draw. And I found a copy of this in the games room. This is Signorie from What's Your Game. It's a couple of years old now. I've taken the plastic cover off just so that the light didn't reflect too badly off it and you can actually see it. But it is a brand new copy of it, and I will be sending this to one lucky winner. So anybody who's an executive producer gets 3 entries into the 3 tickets into the hat, effectively. Everybody at producer gets 1 ticket into the hat, and we'll now go over to the computer where I will do the draw. Okay, so here's the list. As I say, everybody who is an executive producer, they're in there basically 3 times, and then everybody who's a producer is in there once. So we have a total of 45 people. So this is everybody who supported me in the month of December 2017. So we're up to 45. So let's do a formula. Ran between... Oh, why doesn't that work? Ran between... Right, so random number between 1 and 45. Okay, and the winner is number 14, which is Sandbox Games Database. So I will be in contact with Dan, let him know that he's won the prize, And yeah, thank you for everybody for taking part. Okay, so here we are again. I've spoken to Dan, who won the prize. Dan doesn't play many games these days, so he was happy for somebody else to get the prize instead. So we're here again, and let's give it another go and see if he wins again. 23. 23 is Jill Pearen. So congratulations, Jill. I will be getting in contact with you and working out how I'm going to get you this game. Okay, so that's the prize draw done for December. January, I can announce in advance, it's Keeper. Now this is the version of Keeper which I used to film the rules video for, which is available now. Come on to that in a minute. My copy of the game is the character edition, but I agreed with Richard that we would use the standard edition of the game to film the video with. And Richard kindly donated this copy and said I could give it away. So the draw at the end of January, i.e. I'll do the draw at the start of February, basically you've got to be supporting me for the month of January in order to be in with a chance of winning this copy. So that's it, just a bit of an advance warning of what it will be for next month. Tell your friends, although that reduces your chance of winning. So tell your friends anyway. Right, moving on to things that content that I've created in December. So, podcast 55, I mentioned earlier on. That's the Dragon Meat special, where I interviewed various people about dragon meat. So if you want to know a bit more about that, check that out. And podcast 56 was recorded, it's an interview with Scott Alden, or Aldi. Scott runs Board Game Geek. He's the guy who created Board Game Geek and still runs it now. And if you want to know more about Board Game Geek, this was one of those podcasts where I really, really enjoyed speaking with Scott because I found out lots and lots of things about Board Game Geek that I personally found interesting. I've been using Board Game Geek, it turns out, since it came out. So hearing about the history of it and how it all started and what the future holds, I found that quite interesting. So anyway, that's podcast 56. Rules videos, the Keeper video I just mentioned a minute ago, that's done. So if you want to learn how to play Keeper, then the full rules video for that is online now. You can get there and find that. I also did the rules video for Knights of Fire, which is going on Kickstarter later this month, I believe. So the rules video is done. It's not been released yet because it will be released to time in with the Kickstarter. But that's Knights of Fire, designed by David Turczi and Brian Train, and it's the sequel to Days of Ire. It's a completely different game, but obviously it's the same setting. It tells the story of the second week of the Hungarian Revolution of 1956 that I now know lots more about than I did before. I didn't even know there was one before working on these games. Anyway, that's that. We're Not Wizards host a podcast, and I had a good chat with Richard one evening. It was a Wednesday night, and we just chatted for about an hour and a half. And it was great. It just felt like I was chatting with a friend. We had no specific topics to cover, so we ended up wandering off into all kinds of different territories and discussing all kinds of things relating to board games. So really enjoyed that. That's the We're Not Wizards podcast. I'll put a link to that in the show notes below. What else has happened? Cousins War, I did a review video for that. I mentioned that, so go and check that out. And the Loot Island video that I had previously worked on got released in December. I've also been doing some more work on some of the rule books. Centre Shaft, still working on that. Legends Untold, still proofreading and editing the card text, which is taking a lot more work than expected. Need to start on the rule book for that soon as well. What else? January, plans for January. So I'm doing a rules video for Gentis, or Gentis, however you pronounce it. Originally a Spielworks game. Tasty Minstrel are doing a Kickstarter version of it, which is going to be launched in January, I think. End of January, maybe start of February. And I'm doing a rules video for it. So I'll be doing the rules video with the old version of the game, because Tasty Minstrel, obviously, they've not done their deluxe version yet. Tom Heath lent me his copy of the game. Thanks very much, Tom. So yeah, I'll be doing that in January. I might also be doing the rules video for Founders of Gloomhaven, although that is dependent on the game arriving. I'm hoping to get like the first copy that comes off the printer, and as soon as it does, I'll be doing the rules video for the game because I want to get the rules video done before backers get their copy of the game. I'm also planning a couple of review videos, and this time I've moved over to do a polling system on my Patreon. So everybody who backs at producer level and above gets a chance to vote on the games that I'm going to be reviewing. Although there are a couple of review copies that I got given that I need to do reviews for anyway. So it won't just be the votes from the polling system. Later on this month, in just over 2 weeks' time, I'll be going to HandyCon, which is a convention run by Paul Harris, a friend of mine. It's in High Wycombe, it's 3 days, it's about 250 people playing games, which is great. I'm going to be working there, but it's the part of the job that I really love, which is demoing games to people. I am running official demos of Pulsar 2849 and Founders of Gloomhaven, as well as some other CGE games. If you're going to HandyCon, I'll see you there. If you want to get a game of either of those or anything else that I've got with me, then let me know. I'm actually booking spaces for Pulsar and Founders of Gloomhaven, so check out the HandyCon website. I will also be bringing with me some top secret new CGE prototypes of games which we might be releasing, we might not be releasing. We don't know. Until we get them out there and get people playing them, we don't know whether people are going to like them or not. So that'll be the first chance to see new CGE games, although I need to swear everybody to secrecy on them. And I'm going to be doing another monthly Q&A. I did one last month, and after the technical hitches at the start, it all went well. So I'll be doing another one this month. I don't exactly know when I'll be doing it yet, but I will announce it on my Board Game Geek Guild and over on my Patreon page. And like last time, I will be asking for some people to send in some questions beforehand, although it is a live show. So if you do want to ask any questions, if you can't make the live show, and you want to ask me any questions beforehand, then I'll answer them, but I will also take questions along the way. So anyway, that's coming up in January. What else have we got to talk about? Ah, yes, Leanne sent me a Christmas present. She sent me some roasted cashew nuts, mint flavoured. No idea where she got these from, and I've never had mint flavoured cashew nuts. I haven't opened them yet, I've not been brave enough, but thank you very much, Leanne. I will be having these at some point, or dropping them on the floor. Right, what else have we got on? Talked about that. Reddit thread. So there was a Reddit thread. Now I don't go on Reddit. I've tried it a few times, and you're not allowed to self-promote on Reddit, and that's absolutely fine. But I found a lot of Reddit very, very toxic, even when you're going on and you're trying to be helpful. I mean, a lot of forums and places can be toxic, and Reddit has a reputation for being toxic, and I found it has been like that for me in the past. And nobody, a lot of the big media names, other people post their stuff all the time. So they don't have to post it themselves, which is good because you're not allowed to. You're not supposed to be posting your own content. But nobody's posting any of my content. So it's one of those catch-22 situations. The big people with the big following get their stuff posted on Reddit, which is arguably the most popular place to read stuff. But the little people, like myself, nobody posts my stuff there. I'm not allowed to post my stuff there. So I have tried Reddit, as I say, a few times in the past, and I've spent a few weeks on there engaging with people, joining in discussions, giving people my opinions and advice and all sorts of things like that. But I just didn't really get anything out of it myself. Anyway, why did I go on there? Well, somebody alerted me to a Reddit thread that had mentioned me. And I can't avoid not going there. And it was an interesting thread and a discussion. And it was, now, this has been discussed many, many times before. And it's all about whether people who get paid to create videos should declare it up front. And it should be, YouTube has that, this is a paid promotion and all of that sort of stuff. Now, there's one extreme view, which is like, yes, if you were paid to make a video, you must put something on the video. It's the law. And if you don't do that, you're breaking the law and everything else. As I say, it's an extreme view because I don't believe it's correct. I believe the law is if you're endorsing a product, so if you're reviewing a game and you're saying it's good, or you're doing a preview of a game, or you're doing anything like that, then you have to have it on there. And a lot of media content creators do this now. Man vs. Meeple, for example, they do have that on there now. They are upfront about it, which is good. But instructional videos, I think of them differently. I didn't think they applied. They're not endorsing the game at all. People like me, Rodney Smith from Watch It Played, who create these instructional videos, we don't put that on our videos at the start. But the question is whether we should. And that's what the thread was about. It was basically whether people like us should put that on there. And about 95% of people said that we don't need to. They are instructional videos. They're purely instructional. We are not at any point saying, this game's great, go out and buy it. I really like this game. We avoid saying anything like that at all. And as I say, 95% of people said, yeah, we don't need to. And Rodney came on and he gave his opinion of why he doesn't say that. And I gave my opinion of why I didn't say that. Of course, I didn't word it very well and I got jumped on from a great height by people who just seem to want to be nasty to me. But that's Reddit all over. And then outside of Reddit, I spoke to lots and lots of other people about this. And again, about 95% of people, or in fact everybody, said, no, you don't need to do this. You are just providing information. However, I've started doing it. Why have I started doing it when 95% of people have told me I don't need to? Because there's 5% of people, and it's that small percentage of people on Reddit who probably don't even watch my videos anyway. So you might think, well, why should I bother changing for the minority that probably don't care about me and don't watch my videos, who just want to be angry? Well, it's because they have a point. And whilst I don't agree with that point, they have basically said that they will refuse to watch any of my videos because they know that I've been paid for them and I'm not declaring that, therefore it's dishonest. So by saying at the start of my videos, and I've done it at the start of my latest 2 videos, that these are commissioned by the publisher. I've never been one to keep that secret. I've always said that these are commissioned videos and I get paid for doing them. Other people that get paid to create content sometimes don't, they're not as open with that as perhaps they should be. That's their decision. I've always been upfront about it and honest about it. So I've actually said something at the start of my latest 2 videos, so that those people on Reddit who were hating me and were complaining now can't complain about it. And the people who don't think it's a problem or say I don't need to, well, hopefully they're not going to mind that I have put it on there. I just wanted to make it completely transparent to everybody. Now, part of me thought, should I be doing this? What is the downside to doing this? What is the downside to me saying that this was paid for? And why don't other people say that it was paid for if it was paid for? And the only thing I can think of is that the people who run crowdfunding, like me, I've now got my own Patreon. If people watch one of my videos, if you are a Patreon supporter of mine and you watch one of my videos and it says that this was commissioned, you think, well, hang on a minute, he's been paid to make the video. Why am I supporting his Patreon? With me, and I've been quite clear about this, my Patreon is not for the rules videos. The rules videos is my job. That's what I do. I get paid to create them. People watch them. That's great. The Patreon is to support all of this other stuff that I do. So this monthly video log, the Q&A, the review videos, the podcast, everything else, all of that other content that I don't get paid for at all. And I probably spend about, I think I worked it out, it was about 25 or 30 hours a month, maybe even more. It was probably more than that. Probably about 40 hours a month away from paid work to create content. And I couldn't justify that without raising some money through Patreon. So anyway, that's what I've done. I did go back to those people on Reddit and tell them and say, look, I have made these changes. No, didn't hear anything back from them. So I would love to hear from people. As I say, 95% of people I spoke to said, I don't need to put this on there. But now that I have put it on there, I just want to know what you think about it. Is it right for me to put it on there? Am I keeping secrets if I don't put it on there? Anyway, that's Reddit. Other things that have been going on. Some people have said that they wanted a bit more personal information about me in these monthly video logs. I'm a little bit nervous about that because things with my personal life aren't exactly perfect, as nobody's is. There's a number of problems going on, most of which I don't really want to talk about. But this is my opportunity to share some information with people to show that I am human. Holidays. I haven't had a holiday now in 3 years, 4 years. And I've not even really taken any time off work. It's kind of become a running joke that I don't sleep. I do sleep. And that I'm working every hour. Well, I do work a lot. But there's reasons for that. When I left my full-time job and I started Gaming Rules as a business, I'm starting it as a business. Therefore, whether it's successful or not is down to me. And I am inclined to work as hard as I can to try and build up this business and do as good a job as possible. And that means throwing my heart and soul into it. And that means my life pretty much got put on hold. And that's been 2.5, 3 years now. In fact, it's 3 years this January. So I should have really stopped and taken a break, but holidays for me are not generally good. I'd prefer to stay at home for a week rather than going on holiday. It's all of that money and all of that expense for something which causes me a lot of stress. Going away is a very, very stressful thing for me to do. And I realised after after going on holidays and doing all of this that for me, it's not worth it. It really isn't. Vicky, however, my partner, my long-suffering partner, is getting a bit fed up that she hasn't had a holiday in years. So she went to Iceland with her mum. So at the start of December, which is when I had the games weekend, she went off to Iceland with her mum, 4 days in the freezing cold. She saw the Northern Lights and came home. So she's had a holiday, she's had a bit of a break, that was good. But yeah, that's a bit about holidays and why I don't generally take them. I mean, I get to go away many, many, many times a year. So people think, oh, I'm going on holiday, but it's work, you know. Spending 24 hours traveling to get to America to then work solidly for 5 or 6 days at a convention. I love it and it's great that I'm there, but it is work. Other things that are going on, and this is really bad. So if you want to skip past this bit, I totally understand. But some very bad personal news just before Christmas. My mum had an appointment with the doctor to get the results of her biopsy that she went for, and the cancer that she had last year that was all treated, major operation that she had, radiotherapy, everything that she had that had all, they said it's all gone, it's all cleared it up, it's all sorted, it's come back and this time it's inoperable. It's hit the family hard. I'm sure other people who are listening to this have probably dealt with this kind of thing. It's been a very, very difficult time. I've got through it by building up my walls, pretending it's not happening, even though it is, and throwing myself into my work, and creating content and videos and everything else. I have to admit, I have produced less content because it's been very difficult at times to actually sit down and try and concentrate when you've got things on your mind. And we did have to go up to my parents over Christmas. They were originally planning to come down here, which meant I didn't get as much content as I wanted to create done in December. My dad, the day before my mum got those results, was in for heart surgery. So, which was routine and it was all okay. He's had 2 stents fitted, but that's worrying. You know, your dad's going in for a heart operation and he can't drive then for 2 weeks, which is another reason why he didn't come down here. And then the day after that, your mum's getting the results. So it's been a hard time. I needed some time to myself over Christmas and then went up to my parents and then came back down here for New Year's Eve. We originally did have plans for New Year's Eve, have a few friends around, but neither of us were really in the mood for celebrating. So we just had a quiet night in, watched The Great Wall with Matt Damon, and yeah, had an early night. So that was a bit of personal news. What else have we got to talk about? I think that's probably it. That's everything that I've been doing in December, everything that I've been working on. I mentioned what I'm doing for January. So we'll wrap up things there. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you again to all of my Patreon supporters who made this video possible and a lot of the other content that I create. So if you are interested in supporting me on Patreon, then please check out the Patreon page. And until next time, take care and thanks for watching.